Good morning. Last night we experienced Marvel Comic Con, and it was honestly one of the most boring MCU Comic Con that I've ever seen. I remember all the way back in 2014 when they first started doing these things, and they didn't even have to do a Comic Con back then. They just had Kevin Feige do a random fan event on stage and had all these announcements. That 2014 Comic Con was when they announced Ragnarok and Civil War and Infinity War, and it was epic and it was amazing. But last night was honestly the most boring MCU Comic Con that I've ever experienced. They were going over these movies like Cap 4 and Thunderbolts people don't care about, basically information we already knew. Finally started to get some new stuff with Fantastic Four, but while the aesthetic of Fantastic Four might look a little bit interesting, Fantastic Four First Steps, awful title. I'm really unsure about that movie, and it's just nothing to really get me hyped. But then they started getting to what I was there for. It was the Avengers stuff. They announced Avengers Secret Wars still happening in 2027 with the Russo brothers attached. That was already known. And then they finally did their big reveal of what's going to happen with Avengers 5, because that was supposed to be Kang Dynasty, and obviously the stuff that happened with Jonathan Majors happened. And so they announced that it was going to be Avengers Doomsday and that Robert Downey Jr. would be back playing Doctor Doom. And my soul died. Okay. Okay. So this got a very strong polarizing reaction because some people see this as a good thing, a whole lot of people see it as a bad thing, but what no one disagrees on is that this is an act of pure desperation to get RDJ back into the MCU somehow. Now, listen, Iron Man means a lot to me as a character. Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, my favorite character from the MCU, what really got me into that world. I mean, the entire world got me into it, but especially Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. The Avengers means a lot to me as a movie. That is the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker. But here's my problem. He had the best ending that you could have possibly given him in Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame, a lot of people have problems with it. I thought that for at the very least, Tony Stark got the best send off that he could have gotten, and he had absolutely no reason to ever come back in any way, shape, or form. And while I applaud Marvel for not bringing him back as Iron Man, I think that this does speak to a continuous problem with Disney and Marvel. And I want Marvel to get better, but I am so tired of getting my hopes up only to have them let down. And so there's two sides to this story. There's two opinions on this. The first opinion is that this is good because this means that Marvel cares about what fans want. They're going back to what worked. They are doing a character that people recognize. They're doing a movie that now has a reason for people to be talking about it. That is a valid opinion to have, but I think that it misunderstands something about the original MCU, and I think that so far it shows that Marvel misunderstands something, and this is something that has been happening across Disney. The reason why the MCU worked was not because RDJ was in it. It was because you had a well-written character in Tony Stark, and RDJ happened to be the perfect person to play him because he had a lot of personal experience to give to that character. But the first Iron Man was a very well written, thoughtful movie. Watch it, go back and watch it. That was a very well done movie. That is what truly kicked off the MCU, and it's of the likes that you will never see these days. Because even as we've been getting some successful projects here and there, they still have sort of the same problem that they're entertaining, but the writing is not there. And just getting a couple projects that are entertaining but have bad writing isn't going to really cut it, especially after we've had so much bad. But the reason why the MCU was successful was not just because RDJ was in it, is because you had a well-written character people liked and that they liked to follow, and well-written characters, I should say, that have all gone. And having RDJ leave the MCU is not what killed it whatsoever. You can see the box office results. People were more than willing to come to the next MCU projects because they had that confidence in it. What happened was you had these characters that were poised to at least carry the MCU for a little while, and you systematically deconstructed them. Maybe some of it was intentional, some of it was not. Doctor Strange became a character who did evil, and he became evil at the end. Spider-Man was not character assassinated, but he did sort of become forgotten because of the spell, and he went away. Chris Hemsworth's Thor was deconstructed into nothing more than a clown. Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, was turned evil and character assassinated, probably the worst of them all. Black Widow is dead. None of the new characters that they started with, from Moon Knight to She-Hulk to any of them, really got off the ground in a big way. Loki became good pretty much and is now at the end of the universe. And so it was just sort of like the systematic destruction, downfall of this entire universe. Shang-Chi Eternals did not pick up. So none of the new characters that they pushed picked up. And all of the other characters either were killed off or were character assassinated. That is what went wrong with the MCU. And so the problem wasn't that certain actors were going to leave, it's just that they didn't set themselves up for success by giving the new characters, or the ones that had been supporting characters up to this point, they didn't give them anything. Like Sam Wilson, poised to take over the role of Captain America. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a terrible show that changed his character, and now there isn't hype for Captain America 4. That is the real problem of what happened with Marvel. The writing could not keep up with the characters. And to be fair, they do have the original writing team that wrote Endgame, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, and Civil War. I know people are down on Endgame, but that is a good track record overall. The Russo brothers are coming back. They haven't done great movies since Endgame, or Infinity War, I should say. And a lot of people don't have faith in them coming back. I think that going back to an original creative team is a smart move. So far, that's worked with Marvel in terms of James Gunn and Sean Levy, however you pronounce his name. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the same way that Peter Jackson and Philippa Boyens came back to do The Hobbit, and that was a disaster. So there's some areas where it seems like it's a good step in the right direction, but here's my personal problem, that Marvel, at least they're not like Star Wars. At least it doesn't feel like they actively despise anybody who watches these movies or who tries to enjoy these characters. But at the same time, here's my big problem, and this has been the problem with Marvel for a long time, and problem with Disney at large, is it's just gimmicks at this point to try to get people back. It's just gimmicks. Deadpool and Wolverine is like that. It's like Hugh Jackman was done in Logan years ago. That was the perfect send-off to his character, but they had to bring him back because they don't have any faith in themselves to make something new. And they bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and Kevin Feige said recently that, I don't know, I guess Wolverine will be recast someday, but as Deadpool jokes, and what doesn't seem to be really a joke, they're going to make him do this until he's 90. Hugh Jackman is approaching his 60s now. He was supposed to be retired from this character. Robert Downey Jr. for a long time was saying he will not come back to the MCU. Then I saw this coming with Doctor Doom. The rumors had been out there. Robert Downey Jr. had all of a sudden changed his tune that he would be coming back to the MCU, and he is. And so it's what they're saying online. It's stunt casting. It's just a stunt to try to get butts into seats, and I think it will. But it doesn't sit well with me because that's all they've been doing. That they did that in Doctor Strange 2, where, Patrick Stewart is back as Charles Xavier, and in Deadpool and Wolverine, this character from the Fox universe appears, and this character from the Fox universe that you forgot about has appears, and it's just, there's no substance to it. It's just a stunt, and that's what Marvel has been doing up to this point. And yeah, you can look at it on the one hand of that they're trying to give the audience what they want, but I'm not sure, especially with the reaction to this, is that it's what the audience want. We were pretty clear we didn't want Robert Downey Jr. to come back and taint that original character send-off in any way, and if he's going to come back to the multiverse, well, That goes back to more of what the audience doesn't want, and that's what I think is the irony about Deadpool and Wolverine, because they make fun of the multiverse of the MCU and how it's failed, and how other people, like the Flash movie, tried to do it. The Flash movie tried to do more of these stunts with Michael Keaton Batman and all of that, and it's just completely cannibalized itself. And the reason why all of this multiverse nonsense has cannibalized itself is because it's substanceless. It's just a stunt to get butts into seats, and there's nothing behind it. And this Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom, what it basically is, as we understand, is it's basically evil Tony Stark from another universe. And there's the argument there that could be interesting if done right, that the person who saved the universe is coming back in evil form, and now he's going to destroy the universe. And yes, Avengers Doomsday is a good title, but I have a hard time trusting that this is going to be well written, even with the writers they've chosen. That is a big plus. But but it just because of the track record so far, it just feels like more stunts. And I'm just like, this entire time I've been saying, hey, the X-Men can save the MCU, because what I'm saying here is these are fresh, new, interesting characters that I am excited to see the new stories from. But what we've been getting is actors who were supposed to be retired from these universes altogether coming back as an act of pure desperation, just to get butts into seats, just to get people to watch these movies again. And it doesn't excite me, because I'm not seeing the interest. I'm not really seeing the story behind it. Like, it could be interesting, but I'm just not confident, because Marvel can't realize the main problem. It's not that you don't have the actors, it's that your writing got so bad. Not every Marvel movie was perfect, of course, but they used to have the best movies, like the Winter Soldier and stuff like that would carry the whole thing, and good character writing and all of that. And then, as they failed because of bad movies and bad character writing, they've just gone to fall back to rely on stunts. It's what Star Wars did, where they brought Luke in for the Mandalorian Season 2 finale as a deep fake Luke, and everyone was like, oh, Star Wars is saved, but then it didn't lead to anything good, because it was just a stunt. And that's why I am so skeptical on what's going to happen with the MCU with this, because it's like you're just doing more of that. You're just doing the key jangling, the easy way to get people talking, the easy way to get people to come to see the movie. And I'm thinking, why don't you just make a good movie somehow? You're like, why don't you just start making good movies again? Because you have the resources. You have the X-Men as an entire resource for characters that have proven to be successful in the past, something that is possible to make good movies from, and you're not using them so far. And at this point, I'm relieved that they're not using them, because I'm not convinced of them doing good movies again as of now. But it's like Robert Downey Jr. for so long was like, I am done. I want to do something better. He went out and won his Oscar, and here he is coming back, and I'm just not convinced that this is going to be good. And I'm just like, but who is there to fight him at this point? Because all of the characters in the MCU that people cared about have kind of either been scattered or destroyed. So what you're probably going to get in these movies is a hodgepodge. You're going to get more Hugh Jackman Wolverine, once again, another stunt casting thing, or stunt bring back. You're going to probably, I would assume that Chris Evans is probably going to come back as a different character. I wouldn't be surprised if the entire MCU crew came back as different characters, because they don't want to destroy those characters' endings, but they want to get those actors back just to do anything to get people back. And it just doesn't sit well with me at this point. And at the Comic-Con, they're like, oh, Fantastic Four is going to be in it, in a movie that I don't know that it's going to be any good. Thunderbolts is going to be in it. Those are characters that I don't care about. Those aren't exciting me to see this new Avengers movie at all. And it's unfortunate, because what was good about the original Avengers films is it was always building to a new story. It always felt like it was going to be its own story based on its own comic. This is something that they are specifically making up in order so that they can just have some excuse to bring Robert Downey Jr. back. They're doing an Ultimates comics, and they're introducing the idea in these Ultimates comics that are coming up of an alternate universe Tony Stark who is Doctor Doom. They're doing that in the comics specifically so they can have an excuse to do this movie. And it just feels like more stunts from Marvel out of pure desperation, just to do anything to get something to work, and it feels like they haven't necessarily learned their lesson or anything about what was the real problem. Not that you didn't have these actors, but because you can't make good movies and all you can do anymore is these stunts to try to get people to watch. And people are pointing out, like, they wanted to see Doctor Doom in the MCU for years, and they wanted somebody to be cast that actually fits the character. Tony Stark does not fit Doctor Doom. Robert Downey Jr. does not fit Doctor Doom. And he's not going to be playing the character we liked in the original MCU, like the charismatic Tony Stark. It's a completely different character, just slapping his name on it in order to try to get people in. Like, I want to be proven wrong as always with this stuff, but it just feels like I'm so tired of being led on by Marvel and being let down, and led on by all these things and being let down. It's kind of what I was saying in my Harley video the other day, that I'm just getting so exhausted from it, and that I just think that this act of pure desperation does not bode well. Can you make a good movie? That's what I'm really questioning at this point. Can these people pull these together? Can you make characters that people care about again? Because these various stunts just aren't working. I would have well preferred that we got a recast for Wolverine rather than having Hugh Jackman come back, honestly. You know, they can't recast anybody. They can recast these actors as different characters. They just can't recast anyone, even T'Challa. So like, I'm not as upset about it as I was last night, but I can tell you, after trying to have some optimism for the MCU going forward, last night I was feeling like, no, sticking a fork in it. It is completely dead. What was the good of the MCU is completely dead, and I hope that I'm wrong, but this just does not seem good to me. I kind of feel a little bad to see Robert Downey Jr. coming back after he said that he wasn't for so long. And so yeah, that's where I'm at. And if they can prove me wrong, great, but they have to prove me wrong. I have to see these movies actually turn out again before I'm convinced that the MCU can ever be revived. But that is all I got for you guys today. Thank you, patrons, as always, for supporting this channel. If you want to support this channel, check out the link in the description, and I will see you guys next time.